Alright, so let's talk about recording without sight. I'm using a program called Cake Talking, which works with Cakewalk Sonar 8.5. It's a script they wrote. Dancing Dots wrote it, and it works pretty well. It does most features. You can add in soft synths, you can record audio, edit MIDI, many things. You've got different types of views. Right now we're in the track view where you can see the different tracks that are in my project. Alright, so I use various hotkeys to navigate on the keyboard. I don't use a mouse. So in some ways it's quicker. The keyboard is a lot smaller than a control surface, which I also have, but I found it's a little bit slower to use because I have to navigate all over a giant control surface. So you'll hear my screen reader read each thing. I use the arrow keys. It just said soft synth. Audio track 43. I have it set rather quick because I don't want to listen to this voice drone on, which it will. So you can go through the tracks, you know, one by one, and
1.0 peak output level.
If say the peak output,
Track layers is off button.
track layers is off,
Minimize strip button.
minimize strip,
Maximize strip button. Manual mute is off button.
manual mute is off,
Solo is on button.
solo is on,
Archive is off button.
archive is off. So
Solo is on button.
solo is on, obviously, is what it is.
Play.
Here's a kick drum. If I unsolo this,
Solo off. Solo on.
so
Stop.
I wanted to go over how I use effects. Most importantly, the effects I used on the latest album I did, Strange Amounts, under the name Deviator. The Slate Digital plugins were awesome this time, so let's insert one.
Volume is 0. Slider or effects. Effects bin. Press the
Alright, so I'm on the effects bin.
Audio effects subject. IS. Software. Slate Digital subject.
Hotkeys.
VB. Virtual mix rack. V.
Let's put in the virtual mix rack by Slate.
Reset is low close macro semicolon irises. Virtual mix
Alright,
rack.
so
Again, toolbar. Reset.
a lot of
Reset is low close
plugins
macro
are
semicolon
not
irises.
accessible
Use value change key
to
select
the
reset.
blind
Use
user.
tab to remove release tool with controls, but the parameter section of this plugin has not been scripted for.
As you can tell, the computer was just telling me that this plugin has not been scripted for, because it does come with a few plugins that are scripted for. The Sonatus plugins and the Cakewalk plugins that come with Sonar are done by the Cake Talking scripts, so you can navigate through things like parameter controls on EQs, compressors, reverbs. They have a bunch of them. With the different manufacturers, though, third-party manufacturers, you don't always get accessibility. A lot of the time, you can make presets with the help of a sighted friend, but you can't really adjust anything once those presets are made. And then sometimes you can make presets and you still can't really use it because if for some reason Cake Talking cannot pull up the list to see it. So I'm using virtual mix rack right here, and this is the way I found the workaround to use these plugins. So on my keyboard I hit the JAWS cursor, which is the top button on the right, top right of the numpad. I forget exactly what key that is, but you'll hear it say JAWS, which is my screen reader name. Then I go up with the arrow keys. It'll say virtual. I'm looking for the word presets. It'll say presets right there. So then I hit the F6 key. It says removing focus. When it says that, you've got to hit F6 again. Then it brings up the preset list and you hit enter on it. And here are all my presets. So I usually hotkey around, let's say, since this is a kick drum, let's put, I don't know, I've been enjoying the Trident. So I've got presets made with different gain levels and different types of things, depending on what's in the mix rack. So I can go through these. I had these made with my wife ahead of time with varying levels, like This is plus dB gain.
Minus 116 12 T.
And this is where the gain I'm talking about is on the 116 compressor.
Minus 116 15 T.
15.
Minus 116 17 T.
17. So I kind of do even amounts a lot of the time. I unless I really need something to kind of come in and be super focused, this is what I get to do with the presets. So I'll select.
Minus 116 T.
I'll just select the 0 gain because this kick drum's already pretty loud and I don't want to be overdoing this.
Play.
So once I hit enter on it,
Stop and return
I have
to
to
T1.
press the Alt and F4 key at the same time to close the view. And it'll show in my virtual mix rack, well, rather in my effects bin, it'll show virtual mix rack. It doesn't say what I have open or what preset I'm using, but if I go into the inspector, which is the I key on Cake Talking, it'll show me different track controls. So this is all I get with this. C power on, D power on, A power is on, bypass is off. Alright, so with different presets I might get different controls. Like if I just load a compressor, sometimes I only get 3 or 4 controls per plugin in this view. So you'll only see like maybe 2 or 3 bands in EQ and a Q knob or an attack knob or any kind of like parameters, but you don't get a full list, so there's that limitation. In this view you also get the basic cakewalk or cakewalk EQ, 4-band EQ, which you can use or not use. Right now it's off. Alright, so now I found overall the Slate plugins to be pretty easy to use. On this project I use a lot of them, and it didn't bog down in my system until I got into like the 150 plus. Now that's talking about running a project with 70 tracks of audio and probably 60 buses, each with, well, the audio tracks probably had in the track view maybe 30 plugins. The majority of my plugins come in on the bus side, probably 2 or 3 per bus. So at 50 buses, we've got at least 120, which is kind of CPU intensive. My computer did pretty well. It's not a new computer by any means. It's an i7 2.9, 16 gigs RAM with an SSD, and that's maxed out. I can't do anything more to that motherboard, and it ran all of these pretty well. There were a few times when I got a lot of stuttering, but that was towards the end of the project when I got into the use of the virtual tape machine, which I think probably used a little bit more system resource. But you know, it was workable. I did have to kind of export some tracks to a new project to finish some things. But overall, so let's import the virtual tape machine, so I'll show you what controls you get. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to put virtual tape machines in. Alright, so I got 15-inch. I've got presets made in this list as well. This list just opened up. I don't have to any keystrokes or anything. So depending on the plugin you use, sometimes it's easier to open. Let's go with 15-inch normal. I'm going to close that because then I can go into the inspector view, the I key. And this one gives me machine type, so the controls I can now adjust are machine type between the 2-inch, the 827, and the 880, the half-inch. Speed, I can adjust that, and the way I adjust speed is with the, I believe that is the insert key. Sometimes I forget the names of these keys, I just use them so much. Insert on the numpad, bottom left, plus the the numbers. So like a large increase would be insert plus the 9 key. Small increase would be insert plus 3. A medium increase would be insert plus 6. So you get the 3, 6, 9. You could use it on either side. 1, 4, 7. So 15 ips. Now I do have to hold this key down in order to get it to move. So normally when you're making adjustments in Cake Talking, it doesn't require you to hold it down for like 2 seconds to get it to move. But hey, I'll take what I can get. That worked pretty well. So I'm going to leave it on 15-inch. Tape type, FG9 or 456. So I can adjust those 3 parameters, which are the majority of the parameters I want to mess with. Not gain, but I can preset those in the list, the master list. So, virtual tape, awesome plugin, love it. Adds some kind of magic to everything. It's one of those things where I didn't think I'd use it all that much, and then I did a little A/B where I compared what it sounded like without it and what it sounded like with it, and it definitely sounded better with it. So then I had to go in and add it on everything, and it does add a little bit of latency to what you're hearing. So I could only add it once the project was complete, because if I have to retrack something, there's like a millisecond delay, and it threw me off. So a lot of the time I'd have to go into a new project and record the new part and then import that into the project if I had to do a new edit last minute. Let's see, let's put in another slate. Get rid of that. And these are the various types. I'm going to put in the virtual bus compressor, I believe is what that stands for. Oh no, virtual bus channel? Virtual bus. BBC Red. So this one just opens up with a list. I believe the difference in the way these open is because the virtual mix rack allows you to put in multiple instances of plugins, so a compressor, EQ, and a channel strip. So that it's doing more than just a basic preset, which is why I think when you just open a single thing like this compressor, it just opens right on the list without any extra keystrokes. So then I have all my presets. I can arrow through them. Glue high pass, sure. When I open this one with the I key, I get attack, ratio, meter selection, threshold. Those are the only 4 controls. This is on average. You get about 4 controls per plugin. Some are more usable than others. So compressors, they're very usable. I'll get rid of this one. Let's close the project. Verb Suite Classics. I love this plugin. This was definitely. I love the drums depth preset. So these were presets that I had to pull in. Well, my wife had to pull in through the Sonar into, well, from Slate into Sonar. So then I have the presets made. So I'm going to add drums depth. All right, close it. Go with the I key. I get nothing. Verb Suite Classics. Mid EQ gain, low EQ gain, is interesting. I have not seen this view. Usually I get things like wet dry mix.
MIDI view gain is 2.00
But-
dB. Slide name column. You can open its menu later. However, it's not recommended that you use its menu to switch to a different track.
Yeah.
Effects bin. Work Suite Classic. Enter.
Let's open this again. Sometimes if you reopen the plugin.
Drum slide still play.
Alright, break snare
Context
play.
menu. Alt F4.
Great.
Menus.
Close it.
Inspector for track. Name column. MIDI view gain. Low EQ slash. Bypass is off.
Alright, fair enough. We're getting this kind of.
Track 43.
Normally I get more parameter controls for the delays. So these are the kind of inconsistencies you get with plugins. This is far better than most. I've had some run-ins with other plugins that were unusable, other manufacturers types. So
Work Suite Classics. Open the complete. Automate effects bin.
let me put something else in.
Audio effects subject. IS. Soft S. Virtual mix rack. Work Suite. VBC rack. V. VBCFG-red. V. VBCFG-U. V. Slate Digital submenu.
Let's add in the delay.
Viewing menus. Track pane.
The delay is also an awesome plugin that came in super handy. So I pulled all these presets in from Slate into Cakewalk.
Bounce to this. Bounce to this too. Bounce to this.
Alright, we'll use the preset bounce to this. And so this is what you get.
Display. Name column. Delay left. Stereo spread is voted. Delay left time is 100.0.
Delay left
Delay
time,
left time is 100.0 ms.
100 milliseconds.
Stereo spread is mode A.
Stereo spread is mode A.
Ping pong mode is on.
Ping pong mode is on.
Input gain is 0 dB. Slide or
Input gain is 0.
Repeat. Open the context menu.
So,
Input gain is 0 dB.
Mildly useful, not a ton. So I do have to make a lot of presets for this. So, this is kind of how I use basic plugin editing with Slate. I found it super helpful for sound. Like, it improved my overall sound on the drums especially. If you're interested in checking out what happened with all these plugins, the album that they actually made, go to deviator.com. That's deviate with an R.com. Check out the album Strange Amounts and let me know what you think of it. Remember, subscribe to this page if you want to get more of my updates, and like the vid if you dug it. Thanks guys, have a good one. Bye.